Hey, this is Cap, and you're watching Thorin, the only man besides Richard Lewis who somehow found a way to get both League of Legends and Dota Redditors to hate him.
Right, this is going to be another episode of Elitists United. Me and Veteran here, and our guest is Perkz, who plays for G2 as the mid laner, possibly the AD carry again. We might get into some of that later on in this discussion. And obviously won LEC again. Now, here's the thing, Perkz. You've actually already reached that status in a pro player's career, which I call, like, basically untouchable status. Like, put it this way. If I do an interview with, like, a classic example would be someone like Forgiven. Someone had like a pretty long career, you know, they had ups and downs. We would be going into the minutiae of like, and what about that one time you had the top 4 run at Worlds? And what about that semi-final you're in? Whereas like when we do like shows with you, Perkz, we have to just be like, right, skip over the first 4 championships. Let's get to the least in 3. Like, fucking give me a break. Like, that's actually ridiculous when there's too much information in there for any one show or interview to unpack. You've done too much. Slow down.
I have no comment to that.
Well, here's the funny thing, Perkz, is I always feel like one of the mistakes people made, this is why I'll always be in the space, mate, is I'm the master of narratives. Like, I understand how storytelling techniques work, right?
Definitely,
and I actually thought people really missed a key one in this final, because everyone watched it, right? And what did they all say, Perkz? They're all like, you guys said Cap sucks. Look, he was fucking, you guys said he wasn't a good ADC, and he wasn't going to be good enough. Look, he's awesome. Like, he did all this. I saw you were doing it. You're like, look at his damage stats. That isn't the story at all, Perkz. The story is this. You're so fucking ridiculously good at winning LEC that now you're just like, you know what, my ADC is shit, so I'll just personally take time out of my own role. Remember, don't play AD carry anymore. To just train him literally 2-on-2 with our substitute fucking support. Get him to a level where he then does carry the final, which means that after all that, it was me again. It was still just me. It's pretty legit. Well done.
Thank you, I guess. I mean, it was a pretty good narrative you just said, yeah.
No, but there's some truth to it, right? Like, wasn't this aspect of how you guys...
I think the only thing we practiced to was basically like the matchup. So we never played Lulu Kog'Maw before.
Why do you say that? Like, that's a small detail. So in the grand final, Perkz, you never ever played this comp ever before, but you practicing against them right before the match had nothing to do with them being comfortable playing it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's for sure nice that we can like practice matchups like either 2v2 bot or 1v1 mid. That's for sure impactful for our team. But this is just mostly just so he gets an idea of how this lane might go in the early stages. And just so he gets like more comfortable in lane that he might play that he's never played before. I think that was the idea of practicing 2v2, and it's like he already did like really well in the 2v2. So it's just we got to practice a job we never played before, and that, I mean, in 2v2, right? And then that would just fit our comp really well because. Yeah, and I think that's also like one of the Cup's strengths as well. Like, he basically just came up with a new draft idea for the next day, like the finals day, and the job we made before was like, let's say we still have kind of an advantage because we knew Fnatic bans already beforehand, but this draft just basically gave us kind of like a how is it called, surprise effect, and also it was just better than the draft we had previously prepared. So that's why we played it 2v2, yeah.
Okay. I mean, which one of you guys decided on the Zir priority, though? Because I think Thorin's kind of right with his narrative, but I wouldn't signal the fact that you went 2v2 versus them on the day to make sure that they were prepped for it. I think
that was also Caps, yeah.
That was also Caps. Okay, yeah. That's interesting, because for me, the biggest divergence between G2 before these last 2 sets that you played and G2 after is that the G2 after was going very heavy on the Azir priority and opting into 1-1-3 setups instead of the previous 1-3-1 setups where Caps was somewhat infamously getting caught out in midsection a lot, extending on waves that he really shouldn't when you guys have no priority on the map, maybe even when you guys are all on resets instead of letting the mid-wave soft reset. But instead in this series, whenever you got Azir, you were holding midsection instead, and you would shift Caps from side lane towards midsection, so we never got to see any of that outside of the third game, right?
I think there's also like some truth to that, but not really, because okay, so we raised the Azir priority after the first week we lost. I started playing it a lot, because I thought he's just a strong champion, and I wasn't sure why I wasn't like playing it a lot. And I played a lot in solo on my Secret Smurf, and I had like 20 games in 1 week, and I was playing a lot in scrims, and I was really like popping off. And then I got it like against Mad as well. Origin had like really high prio on it, but I didn't like. I never minded playing against Azir, just because I think I have answers to it. But when there's a comp built around Azir, they have like 2 tanks in front line, and Azir is back. I think they're just like really fucking OP right now, and I don't really think there's like anything that beats it. Unless you snowball early game, but that you have to really snowball. So I raised a priority myself, but for the finals exactly, Cap suggested the 1-2 Azir, which I think made a lot of sense, because against Humanoid it was like a bit harder to draw, because he could play either Corki into it, which is not a bad matchup for Corki at all, or he could play something more aggressive like LeBlanc. Kiana, something that like pressures early game, so he would have like better answers into it. Or like, for example, I don't know if you guys both watched the LCK finals, but the game 1 comp that Genji had against T1, like T1 had against Genji, it was like, honestly, probably like the best comp I've seen against Azir in a long, long time. Like they had like 0 tanks, they had like 3 range champs with long range skills, and they had like 2 disengaged champs. So it was just pretty. It was a pretty good comp.
Okay. So the Fnatic game was kind of like the perfect storm for you guys, because you'd up this priority, and it's even better because they can't pick the things Humanoid can pick into it, right? They don't have any of this.
I mean, I still expected Nemesis to be able to play Corki.
Yeah. Jokes on you, man.
He did play it before, and he had like Lisa Mineral on it, I checked. But I knew that his 3 picks would be like Corki, Kassadin, and what is the other one? Veigar. Yeah, and I thought Veigar is like super useless against tanks. And Kassadin can be scary at level 16, but the game should be over before level 16. So I think Kassadin was also pretty useless, and I think Corki was the only one that was viable. So that was basically, I was pretty happy with the given drafts.
I think he just literally saw like double dash from Azir Jarvan in the first game and figured that it would be impossible for you guys to do anything around neutrals with Veigar. Like that's generally how they do it.
It kind of probably made sense, because if I, let's say, ban like the Corki and the Veigar in second, then he has to go for like Kassadin. Like, I don't know, he doesn't play Zoe or LeBlanc or stuff like that, so it would be really hard. Like, he had to pick something there, But I think Corki would just make also a lot of sense against the dashes. I mean,
I am actually surprised about the Corki thing, because way back when he was on Mad Lions, he was known for Azir Corki Rise mostly. But the Corki has kind of dropped off. Back then, he did also pick up Zoe at the time, and we haven't really seen that since as well. It is actually weird that that's kind of dropped off. And obviously, they've replaced it with the Veigar and these like neutral objective-based compositions that they seem to really love going. Just all of the zone control that they have. And they go like Veigar Gangplank. They seem to value that more now than the stuff he used to do. Because he used to just be a guy who held mid-prio permo for self-made, and now you're kind of the mid-prio guy, and he's not really, like, no one ever talks about Nemesis like that now, right? It's like a complete distinction from what he used to be when he was on Mad Lions, which is really weird, and I guess his champ pools changed with that. Yeah.
Also, I don't know how much you guys follow other shows, but whenever Nemesis is involved with any of the like streams he does with LS, one of the things they always go on and on about, they never shut the fuck up about it, is that one of the criticisms of Nemesis is that he doesn't have the widest champion pool, and they all never shut the fuck up about it, because they're the people who do that thing where it's like, but look, in solo queue he plays anything he wants, and like they just ignore that means in pro play, guess what, as you just talked about, there isn't any Corki for the last year. Well, it'd be last year he did play it. There'd been no LeBlanc for fucking ever. Has he ever played that champ? Don't know if he's ever played it once in pro play. Like, the idea that he isn't one of the main players with a pinched champion pool on Fnatic is just patently ridiculous to me. Like, he's clearly one of the players that they still, to some degree, build the comp around.
I think he has weird priorities now. When it comes to stuff like LeBlanc, like the more aggressive assassin-y based champions, he doesn't generally pick them. He has played 2 games of LeBlanc in total in his entire career. And he has only like 50% win rate on it, so 1 win, 1 loss. But yeah, he's never really tended towards those kinds of champions. Really obvious kind of champions he likes, right? Like he's a Cassio guy, he's an Azir guy, he's a Ryze guy in a very specific way. He's those guys. And it seems that whenever he thinks he's figured out the meta, he'll stick very rigidly with like a certain amount of champions. I don't think he's going to be as adaptable as like the difference between G2 pre these 2 sets, post these 2 sets, right? Fnatic never really shifted that way. I do think the stars slightly aligned for Fnatic, because the current meta has most of the champions that he loves, maybe outside of Veigar being almost perfect there. I think Veigar becomes really, really situational. And Perkz actually brought up on his stream that he thinks that when excessive frontline is involved, that's definitely not one of those situations. You can see if stuff like Azir is going up in prio, because Azir is also really good versus frontline. That maybe you would want to tend towards Veigar, but going that early in the draft, they just pick double tank, and then suddenly Veigar can't really do anything.
I mean, I would say naively, Veteran, why don't they make Azir more of a priority for Fnatic? But I saw what he did in the last game when he had fucking 4 kills up on the guy and did nothing with it. Like, what's great is Perkz gave a great example for the first 2 games of what you can do on Azir, and then the third game, Nemesis just showed us what's happened. He just showed us why global meta thinking isn't a thing.
Well, Perkz also picked Corki there, so he gave him the draft suggestion in the middle of that game.
Yeah, he taught him how to play mid lane. Sadly, the guy wasn't listening. Like, come on, Perkz, this is the part where you have to do another one of the brilliant shades to your career that I very much enjoy, where you explain to me why, you know, Nemesis and NateDOhDoubleG are all fucking brilliant players and definitely world class, and therefore when you beat them every single split of your entire fucking career, you get to be even better. So come on, play a bit of defense for Nemesis.
No, I mean,
was he all right in the final?
I can play defense for Nemesis in a way where if you compare him to, like, let's say if you say that he has champion pool issues, I would also say that every mid laner in EU has champion pool issues, and a lot of mid laners in the world have champion.
Yeah, so people should probably stop comparing him to you then.
Yeah, I mean that is probably the best.
True, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll be real right now, by the way. One of my biggest problems with the NateDOhDoubleGs and the Nemesis of the world is that they never get judged on their own. Here's the way it goes, right? If Perkz is the best mid laner, is really good, well, they're also among the best. So it makes them in people's mind closer to you than they are further away. Whereas games like this show that actually there is a way bigger difference between you and Nemesis than there is Nemesis and fucking Larson. So, like, I don't know why people do that really, in my opinion, disingenuous, like, ranking system. Because look at the way this game went. Like, the guy wasn't even in the match against you, mate. So what would your defense be then?
I mean, like, my defense, I mean, for sure, like, I always think of myself highly, and now, I mean, I used to think of myself very higher when I wasn't, like, actually that good. And now I just try to, like, stay humble all the time, you know, but I do think that I'm for sure the best, right? And
I mean, jokes aside, though, that's kind of part of the secret, right? Is like you can be cocky when you're young and you don't know any better because you don't know what it takes to win. You actually know what it takes to win. You have to be humble, otherwise if you just get cocky, it'll be good for 1 year and then someone will overtake you.
Yeah, it will be very easy. I mean, I still think it's very easy to lose, and I think that we have, like, composure in G2 that we don't allow ourselves to lose that easily. I mean, well, we lost some mid rounds, so there was like an XD double elimination, not preparing playoff. But let's not talk. We can talk about it maybe later. You know?
Yeah, we can get some out.
Well, I think that it's also like Humanoid. He also has champion pool issues because he does literally only play LeBlanc, Kiana, and Zoe. Like, he doesn't actually play. Like, he plays a bit of Corki Azir, but he basically ints whenever he plays like a carry champion because he always makes mistakes. And if he's playing an immobile champion, he will never carry the game because he will always int it. But I still think, for example, from my perspective, Humanoid was the best. That's like the second best mid in the league this split.
Yeah, he was right up there for sure.
I think he was. Well, I guess Fabian was pretty good.
Yeah.
But let's say Fabian was pretty good, yeah. He didn't really make playoffs, or like they lost instantly, right? So it was just like really like sad situation for him, you know. But he was for sure probably the second best. But the Humanoid is like, what I mean is, like, out of playoffs mid, Humanoid was the hardest to play just because he actually does something in the early game. Like, he tries, he tries to do something in the early game. Like, he will jump in and he will play great. Like, he knows how to play laning phase and he knows how to play champions mechanically very well, but he just ints a lot. Like, he just ints a lot. But I think he can be good, yeah.
So then, like, what do you think about Larson then? I have to know what you think about Larson, because I kind of still think of Larson, Nemesis, Humanoid as kind of like a free man that's kind of under you and Feb.
Larson?
Yeah.
Well, Larson, I think he plays like pretty like solid. Like, he doesn't do many mistakes, I would say. But I also think his champion pool is like, I don't know. I remember him, like, he plays like Tristana, Azir, and Aurelia. These are like 3 champs I would say he plays. I don't even know, like, even when you say Larson, I can't remember like any other champ he plays really, besides Tristana, Azir, and Aurelia.
Sure.
So I mean, that's why I think every mid laner has like a champion pool problem where when I go into a series, I just know exactly what he's gonna pick and when he's gonna pick it.
Yeah, I mean, there are only 3 mids that I wouldn't say have a champ pool problem, and one would be you, one would be Febiven, and then one would actually be NateDOhDoubleG. I'd still say NateDOhDoubleG doesn't, but
I think Nuke doesn't have champion pool issues as well.
Yeah.
I think I kind of know what he's gonna play, but yeah, I think Nuke is good, and Febiven I don't really know because I haven't really faced him like since 2017, and then he didn't really have champion pool issues, and I think Febiven is like for sure like not probably as good as like on the new champs like Zoe, Kiana. I feel like he's like very good on the like older champions like Orianna, Syndra, LeBlanc, stuff like that. He's played for like many years.
Yeah,
and he's probably was like top 2, top 3 mid this split.
Yeah.
Here's the difference, though, because again, people always do this where they present like 5 mid laners, and we're just supposed to accept that they're all really good, and then Perkz wins the split. That's the way apparently that goes in Europe. Problem with that logic is this, right? NateDOhDoubleG has Alphari, has Upset, he has veteran players who've played their roles and some of the best in their role. You go over to Nemesis, he has fucking Selfmade as his jungler. He has, I know people are going to meme now, but Whipple was a pretty good top laner for most of the split. He has arguably the best bot lane in the entire fucking region. You go to the other players, Humanoid's working with fucking rookies, mate. Larsen's his second best player is an old fucking support player from Poland from about half a decade ago. Like, these guys are working with scraps. Your boy Nemesis has everything served to him on a platter, and he just isn't hungry. He doesn't want to eat in the finals. He doesn't want to get full. He's just, he's fine, just wait until, apparently he's just waiting until the fucking after party to start playing League of Legends in this finals. Like, what does he think this is, like season 4 or something? Mate, the game's end in 30 minutes. You have to do something. You can't just be doing nothing for 19 minutes of the game.
I'm going to translate Thorin's massive amounts of vitriol here. What Thorin is saying is that out of all of these, it shouldn't be Humanoid that's the one taking risks and trying to develop and trying to push his limits in lane. Nemesis theoretically has more of a solid base on the rest of his team.
Put Humanoid on this Fnatic team and Fnatic would have won the final. There you go.
Okay.
Because here's the listen. We can get into all elements. Like one part that we didn't bother mentioning earlier. The reason why I brought up the example. Listen, I'm obviously joking that you literally practicing caps is not the reason he was better. But that's an angle that people will forget with how history goes, Perkz. Which is history will now be written that G2 won this final easily. That it was only like the fact that it was the upper bracket week 1 that made you guys have a rough series. Then you were comprehensively better than everyone, and in the final you won. And cause Caps had like crazy stats, he obviously must have dominated. What that ignores is, why the fuck was he playing champions he's never played ever in his pro career? Because you guys didn't have a fucking awesome bot lane. Like, it was getting better, and then in the end you had some crazy draft flex that no one else had. Like, you don't do that if you're just the best on the meta champions.
I mean, I think for me, the thing about Nemesis is that I do feel that he's overrated, but only in the sense that given that he is one of many mid laners that do have champ pool issues, I don't like that he keeps being kind of forced into conversation where we're talking about Perkz, Febiven, and NateDOhDoubleG when NateDOhDoubleG is actually having a good time, right? Like, for me, those guys with the breadth of champion pool that they have, if you fit them into basically any team, they will be solid on that team.
Sure.
They will be able to do something with that team. And you will think that you got your money's worth for having them, right?
You've nailed it, by the way. The real problem is this. Nemesis should be in a group with Larsen and Humanoid. That's his peer group. Exactly. And if he was off playing in an XL or something now, I'd have no problem whatsoever. He's a pretty good player, actually. But it's just, to me, a boring conversation to every year tell me that like these players are all as good as Perkz and the G2 players, and then I have to just watch them all lose in the most unconvincing fashion.
Honestly, I don't think Fnatic get another shot like this because the meta was absolutely perfect.
What more could they ask for? Yes, like they even looked until the final, like their champion pools were all overlapping and covered. Like there was no problems until the final.
Yeah, and then the final, everyone's asking who exactly can't play Kalista and Alicia, but until then, they seemingly had it perfect, right?
Well, What do you think about that, Perkz? Like, coming into the final, like, one of the reasons I heard a lot of people predict that Fnatic would win was exactly that. It's like, even the people who normally got criticised in Fnatic, so like Nemesis now, and in the past Reckless, you could say, their styles even looked like the other players in the team complemented them, and there was not going to be no issue there. So I think most people didn't think there'd be a big problem in bot lane, for example. Like, what did you think going into the series?
Well, I mean, I just think, like, Red side right now is pretty strong, just because you have so many options. Like, I don't know, I feel like you have so many options on Red side, and the only thing you have to do is basically like trade OPs and be able to like for example what Matt did, like willing to play Syndra Kalista sides of the matchups, both sides of the matchups, and stuff like that. But Fnatic, well, we just like, if you're a blue set team and you have 3 locked bans, I think the series is already over before it even started. I mean, yeah. Like we basically. So
you mean just when you had those first 3 games on blue side, you already thought like we should win this match? Basically.
No, like when we had the first game on blue side, basically when we had the first game on blue side and we see them first pick Aphelios and do the job we were thinking they were gonna do, I already thought, okay, I'm really comfortable with this. This looks like a really good game, you know. But like we were preparing for a lot of like outside of case scenarios, like let's say the first pick, I don't know, Syndra, or they like give us Yumi and try something. I mean, like we didn't like we just thought that they just had no good options. Like honestly, I mean, I don't think that I don't even think Fnatic played it bad. Like even though it does look like they are like monkeys in the game when they're like fighting us, you know, they're like Tam Kench and stuff.
I mean, they were super aggro on you, right?
But yeah, but they were like they just basically felt like. You know, when you go into game with that, like if I'm them and I go into game with that draft, I'm thinking, okay, Kog'Maw and Azir get 2 items and the game is just fucking lost. Like that's my thoughts. Like I don't want to play this game. Like I don't wanna play this game out. So if what they were doing is just, it kind of like made sense. I just think that we played so fucking good and we knew everything they were gonna do, and we stayed like, we traded objectives. We didn't take any bad fights. Like never take bad fights. Only take good fights. Important to take bad fights when we are strong and when we are like as good in the game, and then when we are stronger we can just end the game in 5 minutes. So I actually don't know, people saying like Fnatic play, but they just got so outclassed. Like I don't know what else to say. They just got so outplayed by draft, and then in game it just like carried on to the game. And draft is so OP. Like T1 versus Genji was a 3-0 because of draft as well. So yeah, and the draft is like not even coach fault. Like I'm not blaming it on Mitty, and he's like my friend, so I'm not blaming on him, right? But like they just can't play Yumi, they can't play Kalista, and they can't play. I thought they could play Syndra, so I thought that they could just like. What would make sense? Like if I'm them, I would just like, okay, we can't have Chilox Banza blue. We have to leave Syndra open, and we have to first pick it, so we don't give it to G2. Like that's what I would think if I was them. So I was preparing for like a Syndra first pick, and I was ready to pull out my Orianna. I'm benched after 2 years, but yeah, it didn't happen. So.
I was actually really surprised about the Syndra one as well, because it's actually his most played champion in his career. It's Nemesis' most played champion is Syndra.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, with 6. It's really weird actually. Oh no, wait, no. I actually have the win rate. Actually, it's his most successful champion.
No, he's most successful.
There's no way it could be the most played. Come on.
Nah. It's the most successful one.
The most played must be like Azir or something, right?
So here's the thing. Like Nemesis is he's 6-0 on Syndra. It's one of his most successful. He literally has never lost on it. With Reckless, Kalista is his second most successful champion that he's like won more than 10 games with. Right? He's played like fucking everything by this point. But that's like one of his most ones as well, kind of tied with Xayah at 73.7.
But Reckless hasn't played Kalista since season 5, by the way.
Sure. And you think that
why isn't
to pick it up now?
The obvious question is this: why do these people never get criticized for this shit?
No, I mean, I actually like can't understand why he doesn't want to play Kalista. I mean, I think he's like a really good player, but like he never really liked Varus and Kalista. I don't know. Like he just doesn't like Rage Blood champions. I think he likes crit. He just likes the crit.
I mean, it's like everyone telling me, oh, but look what a great job he did this season adapting to Senna and Aphelios. It's like, why does he need Tahm Kench fucking bottler support when in a final? Like, you can't play anything unless you got that shit next to you. Come on.
In fairness,
you know how many matches over the last 3 weeks, Veteran, I've seen the team that picks Tahm Kench lose. It's unbelievable. These are the best teams in the entire world as well.
Let's see.
In fairness, you've seen Rakan on a not Tahm Kench champion that is not named Rakan as well, and you can kind of see why they default to Tahm. Like, Hylissang is very strange in that sometimes he'll have a period where if he's not on one champion, it's basically a guaranteed loss. And, like, it used to be Braum 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they put him on Braum because if he went on any other champion, he would just go 2-ham 24/7 and there would be no counterplay to it. But with Braum, he could become invincible for a little bit, and everyone loved that. Tahm Kench is kind of a similar thing right now. At least somewhat encourages him not to go. Otherwise, he gets 2 health bars at least, right? So I think they prioritize it that way. I also think Tarmophilios is actually a really strong bot lane if the enemy doesn't remember that shit like Lulu exists, right? It took so long for Enchanters to actually be pulled out. But, you know, I mean, G2 actually recognized it existed in the finals, and now we're not going to see that because the whole split's over. But Tom in general has been a pretty good blind in the current meta. I do think it's been counterable the whole time. But honestly, until G2 did it, I didn't see anyone pick the proper counters into it or anything. I don't know what Perkz thinks about this though, because he's the one who knows everything they did in draft.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, I think people often pick like just like Braum or something, or they try to go for like a bar or something that's like kind of fine. I mean, Braum is like kind of whatever. You just have better brawl. But it's not really a counter pick, and Bard is like pretty decent if you want to like carry them up. But yeah, I think range support is just like so freebie. Like, even like last year when like Tahm Kench was actually Giga OP, like during MSI, like me and Hampus were playing like Promiscu, we were playing a lot of like Zillion Lucian in scrims versus Varus Tahm Kench, and we were playing it against like TL bot lane, against IG bot lane, against like all these bot lanes we were playing it, and we were like winning every game in 25 minutes. And then on stage, I was playing with Mickey, and we also had pretty high prow on Varus, and Tahm Kench was like permaban against Mickey, for some reason. Tahm Kench was permaban, we couldn't believe it. So we never really got to play it last year, and yeah, I think for a long time it's been a pretty good answer to Tahm Kench. You just need to have like the only thing is you need to have the right team come to also, like, you just need tanks basically. Like, you need tanks, and then Enchanter supports are pretty OP. Yeah.
So can I ask, like, why you guys didn't open counterpick support for so long? Because you guys were generally matching in first rotations until this finals. Was it because the enemy team had free bans and you could work draft that way, or?
We were also thinking that counterpick mid was really OP. We were basically like we were smashing every scrim that I had a counterpick, like every red side. Like if I could get like a good Silas game, good Akali game, good LeBlanc game, like even like good like last pick mage game, it was a really good good game for us. But then I just came to conclusion like Azir was just Giga free win as well. So when Azir gets Giga free win, then I think support is the second valuable role with counterpick.
Okay.
After mid, but if like there is a champion mid that's just too strong, then I think mid counterpick is irrelevant, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense, actually. So when the Azir priority went up to literally blind pickable levels, that actually opens up the counterpick support. So before that was the key thing. Not anything to do with the bans or anything like that.
Pretty much.
Okay. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Because one of the things about this final veteran that tilts me is, like, this is where people are so unfair with how they criticize players. Because I'll give you the spoiler to every Fnatic script where they lose a game for the rest of time when they have this lineup. You just go, right, well, who are the people who inted? And then what you say is, you say that an int is just when you die stupidly. So you go, right, Hylissang is fucking shit and Bwipo's an idiot. It's like, who the fuck would Fnatic be without these guys? These are literally the fucking guys, like, they're literally those like fucking Korean soldiers that like get all the arrows and fucking bullets in them, while Nemesis are fucking reckless and just sleeping in that little bed as that baby in the fucking graphic meme that everyone knows that I'm referring to now. Like, these guys are the ones that make the game even happen. So I'll agree they played shit in this final, but like, those people are basically the fall guys. Like, the other guys, they get to just go, well, I'm not the reason we lost the game. It's like, you're not a reason anything, mate. You're not a reason in the game. You're just a cocksucker. It's looked like you've got like a reverse timer as your CS, and once it hits 200, you win the game or something. Like, what's going on here? Like, this is outrageous. Because everyone, like, listen, I can meme on Bwipo as well, but he at least fucking does something in the game, mate. He tries to win the game.
I understand that. I think most people's issue with Bwipo is getting solo killed twice in lane.
Oh, of course. He obviously had some mad brain farts in this final.
Yeah, but I mean, especially on Hylissang, I've been a massive defender of Hylissang for like most of my fucking life at this point.
Put it this way, every little idiot on Reddit who's a massive fan of Ignat, I wish we could fucking trade those two players. Bring Ignat to Fnatic, and then when he just fucks off out of lane and Rekkles just sits there getting 100 CS, it'll be my dream. I can't wait. Narratives have gone too far with players. Like we can't be criticising a Hylissang if we're going to say Ignat's awesome. Like what the fuck what standard have we got at this point in time?
I mean, I'm not trying to add flame to Hylissang, but I do feel like some of it's being justified. This is at least definitely not a meta where a player like Hylissang...
Oh, of course not. That's probably the one bad part about Fnatic this split, actually. You could always say that the meta was pretty bad for him this split.
I think there's definitely two different ideas of how to play the game going on in Fnatic, right? Like you have sometimes the drafts really heavily focused on zone control, and then you'll have Hylissang on something that, could be designed to kill at this point, could be designed to protect at this point, but he will still, no matter what the composition, just want to go in on every hook that he can possibly land. Right, there does seem to be a bit of differentiation there sometimes. So the best Fnatic comps that we've had are the ones where everybody is on that kind of champion, right? Where like he's on Wakam plus Bwipo's on Zac plus Gragas from Selfmade generally will be the champion, right? And then they all go in and then they can really carry for the rest of the team, right? But there does seem to be like two versions of Fnatic going on at the same time sometimes. And then I get your point, yeah. Then it looks like the guys who are the only people who make anything happen are just inting. But still, I do think objectively, Hylissang hasn't had anywhere near as good a split as he had the last.
Oh, of course
split,
not.
Right? Yeah. As much as I do want to defend him, as much as I do think he's necessary to Fnatic, there is another guy there now who is able to do this, but no one ever singles out as being like the obvious inter, right? Which is Selfmade. Selfmade does get shit done. There were so many fights in the semis against Mad Lions where it was literally just Selfmade plus Hylissang plus Rekkles. Because Bwipo had like Malphite ulted and then died, but it's like really fine because he's basically done his whole job at that point, and Nemesis is just out the fight for whatever reason, and then those three are just smurfing it up on the rest of Mad Lions at that point. Right, like Selfmade gets so much done with Gragas that not even Broxer did back in the day, and he's kind of showing that you can be that kind of player who tries to make things happen all the time, but also understanding your limits enough to never really be in the I don't know how you'd say, like, in the aim of the Fnatic fanboys when they're really pissed for a target, right? So Selfmade stares that kind of example, and I wouldn't put Heli or Bwipo on that level right now. I think Selfmade, it's going to be between Selfmade and Jankos for summer for sure, and I think it's going to be a fight between those two about who's the better jungler for a while now. Before the finals, I was actually saying that Selfmade is the best. Now, I'm pretty sure if I say Selfmade is still the best, that Perkz is going to go really ham on me, but it is at least really competitive, and I think you'd agree on that one.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, Selfmade is very, very good. I mean, he is the best Fnatic member, the best player right now.
Yeah,
I'd agree. Rekkles, I guess. But
seems fair.
I think Selfmade is just like the highest impact one, right? So it's also like jungle is really OP, but he does like. What I mean is like he does play really, really well. Like he knows, like it's what you said, basically. He knows his limits and he knows how to engage and he knows how to play champions well, mechanically. So I think he's pretty good player. Yeah.
And he knows the path as well. Like the difference between this Fnatic and last year's Fnatic is no one ever gets fucking abandoned. Like he understands how to actually fix the map before he does something. Like he's really fucking good, man. Like I'm so glad that he got onto a top team. Maybe
what do you think, Perkz, about the whole angle that until I would say like let's just say after you lost to Mad Lions, most people were still focused on the idea that one of the problems your team would have was that you didn't have the best early games, and then the teams that were waiting for you deep in the playoffs was Fnatic and Mad Lions, teams that people thought would have the edge on you in this regard. It seemed like in the lower bracket, your team became one of the better early game teams.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think early game is just usually early games that usually gets easier for us, let's say, when we have champions that we know how to play with and we are confident in our draft, then we know how to execute our jungle passing, where to cover which lanes, and like what lane we want to play around. But the whole series against Mad just felt like really random. We were playing some mages bot, and we were playing some AD carries, and we were playing some carry stops and then some tanks, and we were like mixing up drafts as well. For example, we had like one game where we had like Sylas, at least Aatrox, and we had a Philios AD carry, and with Philios AD carry you really want to have like more tanks and more like not volatile lanes, which Sylas, at least Aatrox, is like the most volatile you can have basically out of mid jungle top. So I think we had like really poor draft understanding in that series. Also, we played really fucking trash. Like, I mean, I'm not gonna excuse our play on draft. Like, our play was horrible, and it was a mix of like, I mean, honestly, we just played bad. Like, sometimes we just play bad, and it's like we were just not good. You know, we were just not actually very good. And then after that, we just ramped up really hard. We were obviously hit that we lost, right? But we started. We all were reviewing games together with voice comms, and everyone had homework. Make the points, make presentations, talk about the points. After streams, we would basically watch replays and talk about the game. And I mean, basically, like, this is like some of the stuff we did back in 2017, but like the growth we did within 1 week was very good, and within 2 weeks was just insane. Like, I mean,
actually, this is something, by the way, that Grabs himself mentioned. I can't remember. Was he on the last episode? I think that was the right one. On the last episode, I think it was last episode of this show, Perkz, Grabs actually said that even though he didn't want to use it as an excuse, part of the reason he thinks G2 was bad at the beginning of the playoffs is that you guys thought you would have 3 weeks to ramp up and kind of do like a boot camp, as it were. But then the whole going online COVID situation made it like, so there was no 3 weeks. It was just like, right, next week the game starts. Well, the thing is, when he first said that at the time we were doing the show, you guys still could have come like third or fourth. So at that point in time, that just sounds like he's playing great defense there. At the end now, it sounds like he was just right. Like, all you needed, if you look at the time frame, was the 2 weeks, and you were right where you needed to be, the best team.
Yeah, I mean, it for sure it was like not just an excuse, but it was just basically like, even like, because everyone, like, even I had doubts because we were just playing like trash, right? I was thinking like, wow, we're just so fucking bad, you know. But the like, how fast we improved is just like, it's just amazing, you know. Like, it's even to me right now, like we just got so good, like so fast, and only thing it took was like those extra 1 or 2 hours a day, not solo queue, not like playing champions, just talking as a team, just like talking about the game and knowing how we want to play, what is good. Looking at what our mistakes, looking at things we do well, and all these like things that, yeah, as I mentioned, we did like in 2017, but it never really felt like it had like that big of like, in 2017 it took us like months and months, you know, to like build on this, you know, to become really good. But here we have like so many experienced players now that we just basically ramp up really, really fast, and that just makes me feel really confident for our whole future together with us.
So is this process different from what made you so good last year then?
Well, last year, yeah. Last year was just like, I think in spring, we were just all really willing to prove ourselves. Because we were just, I mean, it's a new team, right? It's honeymoon phase, and you really want to prove yourself.
Yeah.
And you also, like, a lot of comments were like really negative and doubtful, right? Towards me or towards Caps joining. And so it was basically just time for me to get good at bot, and time for like Caps and others to show that they're really good, right? And I think we were just like a really big honeymoon phase where we just went on to like stomp everyone. And in summer, like, I mean, people like say that, like, because I saw some comments, I don't know where exactly, but I saw some, like, even maybe it was not, maybe I'm just like, but I saw people say that like this G2 is like worse than last year G2, which doesn't make any sense to me. Like, the games against Fnatic we had last year in summer were like so trash. You know, like, Fnatic plays the same, if not better now than they did in last year's summer. And we were just fighting them. We were just like there to just fight them, you know, and just like take those fights and take the skirmishes and just flip it all, you know. We played like fucking trash. And people are saying that we played better last year, which doesn't make any sense to me, right? So
you are sort of cherry picking the worst part of last year, which was summer. Like, and you did still win the split.
Yeah, but it's like if you
yeah, what about MSI? That was pretty fucking awesome. Spring finals, that was awesome. Worlds was pretty good.
I mean, I think at Worlds we were like pretty meh as well, honestly. I just think we were like already a long time together as a team, so we knew how to bend 8 problems, but we were not actually that great.
Okay.
We were just like, I mean, like, we were insane in our own way, where like we were so good in mid to late game that we would never lose it. And that's also like, every one of our players is really good in the state, but also like me and Caps, when we play on carry champions, like I just know that we're gonna win late game. Like, it's just like, it's really, I have like a lot of confidence in him and myself to like perform on all these kind of champions that require you to do a lot of damage in late game teamfights. And I just don't see anyone who is like able to match that, honestly. So I always was very confident in our late game, but the way we played as a team in the early game was really fucking bad. And last year's Spring was different because the meta was different, and also the champions were different. Like basically, it was like Ryze, Sylas, Akali, topside. You just have to be good at those champions. There's no excuses, you know. You just have to be really good at them. You have to know how to win your lane. You have to know how to not to die to ganks and how to play team fights. And if you're good at those champions, you will be very good. And then we also had like a thing where we played Zyra Khan, and no one else played Zyra Khan for some weird reason. And even if they did, they were all bad at it. So it was pretty insane that like a mid laner rolls as bot and just plays Zyra Khan like the whole year, and no one else really plays it. And that was like one insane part last year. I think that like gave us. I mean, I was like 19-3 with Zyra or something, so they gave us a lot of like free wins as well, just having Zyra Khan. I think we just have like a lot of good reasons why we're good. But this time in this Spring Split, it felt like after we lost to Meadlands, it felt like we just got good as a team. We were like trying to build this Spring Split. It was like hard because of like scrims. We were like, yeah, you know, we didn't really feel, I guess, pressured because we were still stomping regular season. And yeah, I mean, we just ramped up. I don't know. It felt good. Yeah, it felt good to like. We just never. I don't know how to explain, but we never had these scrims where we are like playing against challenger teams and we are having like 20 kills to 5 deaths. Usually it will be like 30 kills to 15 deaths. You know, just like kill, die, kill, die. Just keep like. Basically, we play like. Game was always in our control, and we were not really like sleeping. I mean, some games, like 1 game per day, we would like have fun, you know, and just start running it down. But we basically had like really good composure. Yeah.
I'd also say there's a counterpoint as to why the other teams aren't as good. Fnatic's out here not even picking champions that, as Veteran pointed out, is like one of the most played in Nemesis' career. They just choose not to pick stuff they can play. Your team's playing stuff you don't even play because it's the right pick. There's the difference in mentality. One person is scared, the other person is going for it.
I think also when Fnatic players talk about this in interviews, like a lot of them will generally just rationalize that the picks that they have chosen are objectively what they think are the best at the meta, right? So maybe G2 just have a better read on the meta than they do, and maybe part of that's because of the amount of discussions that they're having, right? Because at some point they're choosing not to play and not to pick up these champions, right? And maybe having these bigger conversations where the way you're talking about it, it seemed as if like each one of you had like came in with a different idea of what they could be adding or what people should be doing in game, right? And maybe in that, because they all get challenged, they all, you know, kind of, I don't want to make it seem weird, but they kind of get to expand each other's minds to the other possibilities of what they could be doing.
I mean, right? I think somewhat right, yeah, but I think it was a lot this playoffs, in this playoffs specifically. I think it was a lot of like on Cups, just basically stepping up like really big time. He was having like some rough times in scrims before playoffs, and there was like a lot of games that he would like had 10 deaths, you know, and he really like wanted to prove that he like prove himself, you know, and that he can play. I think he can play anything, right? So he started working a lot on how to make team play better on him, and in a way he also like kind of like revolutionized bot lane in a way where we were like really farming for late game. Like we were playing a lot of Yumi, Taric comps, and Lulu Coleman and stuff, all the stuff like that where we really just like win by having just better draft and better scaling, which I was not personally very familiar with. And same with Jankos. I feel like we always played really like hard, heavy mid jungle 2v2, snowball, play to silence, just snowball the game, right? Yeah. So that was like a way for us to also expand our game view and just get better. That's why I think Jankos is like so insane, because he is basically just like giving up all his like jungle skill and jungle experience to basically just like path top, cover, push out, path bot, cover, push out, path top, cover, push out, path bot, cover, push out, and just play like that. And just be in the right place at the right time, just not being able to like do anything himself. But it worked really well for us, and Cups basically stepped up big time and just learned how to like lead the games. And yeah, it just felt really good. Yeah, it didn't really feel like we could like, based on our scrims, it didn't really feel like we could lose after we lost the first series. Before the first series, the scrims were still bad.
Yeah. So this is why I think, though, like to answer kind of the rhetorical question you gave earlier, like I think the reason why people will instinctively say that this G2 seems weaker than last year's G2 is because a lot of the things you're talking about is stuff that you guys have fixed in terms of how the whole team fits together and how the whole team understands to play the game together, right? But what people see when they just look is, oh, we can isolate one player that is not keeping up with everyone else in Caps as AD carry, right? And even Caps himself was aware that he needed to step up, right? But no one could really do that last year. Last year, you guys were just the super team. After Spring, somewhat, when you kind of stopped being, all right, maybe he's not an STAD carry yet. Okay, he is definitely the best. At that point, there wasn't an isolated player anyone could say, you target this guy, you could probably win. That's generally the simplistic way that most people will think about the game, right? And everything that you've described is stuff that kind of requires a bit more brain to understand. Yeah, the finals that you played objectively was probably the cleanest series that you've played in Europe, and it was against the best team in Europe at the time before you completely destroyed them, right? But it's difficult to look at that and not still think in the back of your head, well, I guess if you find a way to break through this and target Caps, there might still be a way. Like, people still look at your roster as maybe being objectively worse just because of how fucking clean that looks as a team, right? Maybe they'll think, oh, maybe it's masked Caps, etc. I think that's why.
And also Wonder had times during the split where he looked a bit off, and people thought as a result the Alfaris should have their chances. Just in the playoffs, that wasn't the case at all. Like, I was a monster, wasn't he?
Actually, yeah, the finals that Whippo had, Wonder, obviously not to the same.
He made it look pretty bad himself, didn't he?
Yeah,
exactly.
Especially versus Mad Lions, there are points where it's like, just what the fuck is going on my screen here? Like, everything is perfectly fine. You've chosen to die top for no reason. It's so weird. But actually, Wonder stepped up so much. I hadn't even remembered that he had also looked a bit vulnerable towards the start. But yeah, we've never been able to say that all of your players looked anything less than S tier, right? Last year when you formed, except for you, I actually already had all of your players in S tier from the year before, right? And this year, it was like, all right, maybe Wonder isn't S tier anymore after this first series, right? Maybe Caps is never going to get up there, right? So yeah, people will just immediately, because they don't really view a team as more than some of its parts, just assume you guys are still worse. But I do agree with you. I think you played. Yeah.
Plus, I'll just say this is also a massive problem League of Legends as a game has, because every single region uses a league format. So you play let's say sometimes 13 weeks of play, and at the end, whoever wins the 13th week, all of history's rewritten that they just dominated the split. I made this point on Twitter the other day. If I ask everyone, right, if I ask a random fan who's followed League of Legends esports, tell me the story of SK Telecom, right? What they'll tell me, Perkz, is the most dominant team ever. No one could ever beat them. They were just impossible. It's that's not even true. They only won the split in Korea, the regular portion of the split, 2 times ever or something mental. In fucking 10 attempts or 11 attempts. 2 times ever they won the split. But as in the portion before the playoffs. So actually the people have that story ass backwards. That's a story about a team that if you actually just have them play on a random day in the year, is usually second best in their region. The real story is why are they so amazing in the playoffs? Why do they always come up clutch? Why do they win the big game 5? Why do they, go into a match as the lower seed, but then somehow find a way to win? That's an awesome story. So in the same sense, right, the problem is when you're always winning games where you're behind or you're not supposed to win, it does make you seem more dominant, as bizarre as that sounds, than if you just win cleanly. So your team last year, the reason why I think most people still think you should have won Worlds Finals is because, like you were saying, dude, once it got into the mid game, it looked like nobody could beat your team. Even the SK Telecom, where they had every objective, it didn't matter. At that point in time, it just felt like your team could overcome any deficit. So even though logically you're right, what people should think is, wait a minute, why are they always behind in these games? You don't think that. You just think at the end they were the heroes and they made the big hero play,
It's true, yeah. But if we were let's say, lost those games, then we would be oh shit, G2 is so fucking bad.
Sure. Yeah, then it'd just be all about how you're bad in the early game or something.
It's a really big, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the way you talked about with confidence, how you just felt that if you hit mid to late game as G2 last year, you just felt like you always won. It legit did just start looking like that. It just started looking like there's nothing you can really do against this team mid-late game. I remember how when you were against Origin in the Spring Split finals last year, the first game, Origin was steamrolling ahead of you with a better late game composition, but every time they took a Drake, you just reset map tempo, and then you just ended up winning the game. Spring Split last year. Versus Origin in the finals. Okay, but we had Sonatarik to be honest. We had Sonatarik that game. Oh yeah, wait, no, I'm not sure if you did on that one.
Yes. So last year's Spring Split was also not Oh, in the first series. Oh, okay.
The Juggernaut match or whatever the fuck it was called.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
In the second set, you guys did like 2 compositions no one really expected you to do.
It was big draft difference as well.
Yeah. But the first game that you played versus Origin last year in Spring, like I'll never forget that, because by rights you just fucking lost that game in the first 15 minutes. But every time they went for a neutral, you punished them with map tempo every time, and they just could never find a fucking opening. Like it was insane to me how you did that, and that was the story of your team for the entirety of last year. And it looked like that'd be the story of your team for this year as well, especially when Mad Lions, found windows early, shall we say, in the first set, right? It's like, all right, there's still a mid to late game team, but maybe we just have better early game teams as they get punished. And then obviously, like, the last 2 sets have happened. And it's like, I guess you just can't beat them after a point anymore. Like, they've done it again. It's really intimidating to play against, to be honest. It's the worst kind of team because you never really feel safe against that kind of team, right? I way prefer teams that I know are really good early, because if you figure out how to get around that early, then, you feel safe after a point. You feel confident. But you guys don't have that. No matter how good you do early versus you'll still find the way in mid-late game,
Yeah.
By the way, obviously another interesting element about this split was, since we had it's technically double elim, but it with like little tweaks of the seeding element decides where you go in the lower bracket. Since we had that component, right? When I saw that format, I thought, awesome. Now we get to see Fnatic versus G2 twice, hopefully, but we only got to see it one time because obviously they just went through the upper bracket and you guys went through the lower too quickly, right? In a world where that you could have played twice, like in the summer last year, would playing them a second time, would they actually have been able to take anything from this game to make it closer? Perkz, you're making it sound like there's nothing they could even do from the draft, like they were just in a shit spot in terms of what they play. Like, do you think this would have taught them anything that would have given them a better chance?
Well, let's say it depends, because I think if we got away with it against Mad Lions, we're just saying we can't keep getting away with it, and I'm really happy we didn't get away with it against Mad Lions. We would have probably got smashed by Fnatic that series.
So the worst thing that could happen for you would have been somehow that you ended that 5th game against Mad Lions, because then you would have just thought everything was fine.
I mean, we would probably think okay, we're trolling, but we would just say we're trolling, We would just say,
sure.
We're just trolling, but we would not actually work on it,
That's another thing as well, by the way, that I like about... That's also another thing about G2 that's good, is that's the defense that you ultimately play. Is I know some of these games you definitely just picked a champion that was the wrong champion and it was bad last year, but you can just play it off that you're trolling in the same way as Moscow 5 just played it off as we're Russian, and that makes anything we do that's stupid also is just fine because we're Russian somehow. That really was the angle of Veteran, if you remember. Well, they're just crazy Russians, so it's fine that they're doing this. It's actually important that you have an excuse. That's the other secret. Because you can never actually just admit we're bad, we just did badly in the game.
No, it's true, yeah. It's a good point, yeah. Whenever we play bad, they're G2 just disrespecting. They're just trolling.
The sober way to look at it would be, this idea didn't work. That's fine. They don't all work. Would be the sober way. It's just trolling is the way that you give it in interviews, and then everything is fine. Everything is completely fine after that.
Because here's the thing, mate. If you lost, let's say you in game 1 of this finals, you just lost, right? And then in the interview afterwards, let's say you still win the series 3-2 or 3-1, you just say, yeah, we were kind of trolling with the bot lane picks, we never actually played it before, haha, just thought we'd give it a go, just kidding, haha, unless. But now that you won, everyone's they're fucking geniuses. The way they just locked down the whole draft space, give me a break, guys, and come on. It's clearly a bit of column A and a bit of column B as well, No,
but I've been begging for Lulu since preseason, Pat, so if they fucking lost with that and we're we're just trolling the bot lane pick, swing doesn't matter, I would have fucking tilted to the face of the planet.
Oh, we'll say, by the way, that's one of those areas where everyone can just kiss LS's fucking arse, because that is literally what he said something 3 months ago, Veteran, that this type of support play would literally be the most OP shit if everyone did it. It's just at the time, nobody ever picked any of these champions.
Yeah,
that's why Tom Kench still survives to this day.
Yeah, he was being really big on Zyra and shit as well, I remember. But yeah, I think
he nailed it, yeah.
Work. Yeah, these kind of counter picks work. The only areas I would disagree with is that I think jungle counter pick really worked for a while, but G2 are viewing it as mid counter pick, right? In which case, you're less likely to ever go for those kinds of mage supports later. And I think that's the kind of thing that was missing from the conversation, right? Okay. It wasn't so much of why is no one playing these picks, it's so much why are other picks being prioritized for counter rather than this, right? And it was...
the real problem is people just played fucking Braum instead.
Yeah, but you do that because you have to rotate like super early and you want to play a different way, right? But yeah, I mean, if enemy is picking Tom Kentraphilios on first 2 rotations on blue side, and you still have third pick there, then yeah, I don't see a reason not to really go an enchanter or a mage there, unless the overall composition that you're potentially going for your counter pick wouldn't necessarily necessitate it, right? And honestly, holding until last like they did was so good, especially in the second game, because it's not just about Lulu versus Tom there. Lulu also fucking completely destroys Kassadin whenever Kassadin tries to go in. One polymorph and the guy fucking hates his life and doesn't understand why this form of CC exists in the goddamn game. But you don't have that unless you hold support until super last pick. And enchanters are about a lot more than just a lane matchup, so yeah. Whereas Vorm is probably going to be good in most situations anyway, no matter what the picks you do in 4-5. Right? That would be the difference. I'd assume. Perkz can tell me if they thought completely differently about it, but yeah.
I mean, no, it makes sense. I mean, we're gonna do. I mean, we are like different kind of. We are like, we could play some Tari comps like we already showed beforehand.
Yeah.
Tari comps were pretty fun for me because I would get to play like the Akali, the Sylas, the Diana, and screens we were like having like low success with those champions. So it would be like a bit more fun for me to play. I mean, Azir is pretty fun because it's like really OP, but there is just something about like making plays, you know, and with the assassins. So kind of.
Are you wedded to mid now? Is the question everyone wants to know, because like your boss dropped in an interview that you guys might, you know.
Also, the possible trolling angle being shaded in there again.
But yeah, there's a trolling angle.
Nothing is really like set in stone yet. We are gonna talk about it, right? And we're gonna see what kind of approach we're gonna do, and we're gonna maybe try me going bot again, or maybe try staying. Like we just have to talk about it as a team, right?
Okay.
Also depends on the meta, and I mean we will see, but I think nothing is yet disclosed yet. Yeah.
Okay.
See, that's the thing, Veteran. Now that it actually was a real thing that they were going to have to at least consider doing the role swap back again, Perkz was like, right, better hard carry this finals, right? Just good enough. And then he comes on this show like, why are people saying last year's team was better than we are now? I think this year's team, much better for my money. Much better.
Okay. And also just to, like, since you're making narratives again, I would just like defend the narratives. Is like, what I meant is like, at this last year team and this year team has nothing to do with like me playing bot or Caps playing bot or me playing mid or Caps playing mid. It's more like we as a group are now like, even if I played the bot in the finals and Caps played mid in the finals, I would still say we are the better team this year than we were last year, just because of the, like all the angles I mentioned beforehand. But still a pretty good narrative. I would give it a 10 out of 10 for writing.
I'm just saying, listen, Veteran.
You'll write a book about it one day.
I will, mate. It'll be good. All I'm saying is this, Veteran. If you wanted to pick someone that could have had a chance to play well in mid against this G2 team, you'd probably want someone like Caps from 2018 playing something like LeBlanc, maybe. Sadly, he's not available. He's actually not available to play the final. We have to just put Nemesis in there every time now. So cool.
Lows. I mean, do you think that if you... I mean, I'm assuming you're going to say that if you keep Caps, that no matter what upgrades the other teams do, you're probably going to stay on number one. Is there anyone internationally that you're worried about that facing with your current setup? Not like a theoretical future one, but your current one?
Not really. No. I mean, I feel like we have just the potential to beat anyone. And I mean, I think right now we're just like, honestly, I think right now I would be pretty confident. Like in this, like if you're playing MSI on this patch or like one patch ahead or whatever, right? You know, in this meta, I'm pretty sure we would win MSI. I mean, like it's like we can't say because it's not there, you know. But looking at how other teams draft, and like some teams are like similar idea to us, but I feel like we're just like on another level right now, and I don't really think that I would get proven wrong. I mean, I can't now, so I'm basically talking out of my ass. But as of right now, I would be confident in beating any team in the world from any region. Yeah, I mean, we do have like pretty like shaky record against LPL, but I do think that there is like some like mental block there that we can just like remove as well, because I feel like we could have won the world finals.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the general sentiment, by the way. Like, if people haven't watched,
teams, usually teams say like, I feel like we could have bet like I don't know. It feels really bad of me to like compare this to like let's say IG Fnatic 2018, but I feel like IG Fnatic 2018, that Fnatic could have like never won the final, and I think G2 we would have never beaten IG that year as well. But I think last year FPX we could have beaten them. I think if we just like stuck to our shit and not do some random crazy stuff.
And also, mate, that's a tournament I'd love to see if there was a lower bracket. I'd like to see the rematch.
True, actually. I mean, I have to ask this. I'm not going to get the opportunity again. Last year, okay, do you think that the finals were lost because of purely play, or do you think you've signaled draft a lot for how you guys were able to make so many improvements, and obviously your understanding of the draft as well, and how you ended up playing out as a team? But how much of a factor do you think draft was for the finals?
Well, I think our play was like we didn't really like know very well like weak side, strong side. I remember we were like we like rised up and we were plotting towards bot for some reason. Yep. I don't know if it was us because of Jankos or because of one. Like it was a mix of everyone, you know. And he got dive level 3. I remember there was like one game, you know, and like stuff. I mean, for sure, like I think mid picks were like really troll. At least the first 2 games, like playing Pyke and Tristana. I think that's just like, and Gragas Yasuo was really troll. I think Gragas Yasuo was probably like the biggest bait ever. I really feel sad for like all the EU bottoms giving me so much confidence boost in this combo. I remember Yasuo was like banned, even during Worlds, like it was like perma banned, like from like basically since half a summer split to like end, it was like perma banned till the end of Worlds. Besides like I got like some games, right, and it was usually won, and they played like Galio Kaisa, which was like for sure like the worst. So I think like draft, I think first game draft, if you had a mage mid, it was free win. Yeah. Second game draft was just Giga lost because of Gragas Yasuo, and game 3 draft was also Giga lost because we didn't trade. We get Nzaya for free. So that's basically. I think 2 and 3 drafts were lost. Game 1 draft was free win, and yeah, that's basically. I think play was bad, but game 2, 3 draft was unplayable, and game 1 we should have won even with the bad draft. But that's like I already thought about this a lot, you know. You can see that.
Thorin, the first step to fixing your flaws is recognizing your flaws, and he actually definitely does recognize all the flaws that they had in the first 2 games draft. So I'm a lot more confident you guys will actually pull it out this time.
Like next time we wanna like pull a Pyke mid first time, we'll not be like, I'll be like, shut the fuck up, Caps. Speak up, Oriana.
The sad thing is, though, obviously, since there will be no MSI, you won't get the chance to test yourself against all these other teams. Like, as you're saying, if you look at the regions right now, things would be awesome for whoever had won Europe, if it'd been Fnatic. Like, the drafts in Korea look shit. The LPL teams, it's actually like the inexperienced ones at the moment that have gone deep. There's only FPX left of the ones with experience, and no one knows yet if they'll win. And then if you go and look at NA, like, listen, I have respect for what Cloud9 did, but I think that a Cloud9 versus G2 game would look like this Fnatic game. They would go balls deep super early and they just get the fucking body smacked and go, oh shit, there wasn't anyone like this in NA. So like I'd love to think it would be a great match, but I don't think they could win the series.
I will say that when it comes to the existence of MSI itself, I'm not really that bothered by it outside of the fact that that Spring Split kind of feels a little bit more pointless. The thing with Worlds is that honestly the number 1 team has rarely been the team from the region that's actually been the world champion at the same time. It's been like SKT and FPX, and then I don't know if you count season 2 because they were literally their only representative. So by default, yes, they are also the number 1 seed. But generally, it's actually another seed, and I actually like that they're opening up 4 seed for Europe and 4 seed for China, because especially watching China right now, I think any of the lower ones could probably still pull it out, right? If the side decides not.
Oh, of course.
I'm wondering like how would it work? Then it would be like then there could not be 2 LPL teams per group, right? There could only be 1 LPL team per group, right?
I haven't thought about this.
I mean, I'd assume they'd have to allow it, wouldn't they? Unless they just all go into 1 group each.
Oh, and same with EU teams, right? Like how would it be? Like how would the drafting be? I mean, I have like no idea, and this is probably like a bit like need some thinking to do, you know. But would they like make a draft where each EU team and each LPL team is in each own group, or would or would they be able to just mix it up and just have 2 EU teams in a group or something?
I guess all the China teams get put. No, actually, yeah, that's actually really. I hadn't thought about this. I mean, I guess they will force it, but then the draft is kind of over a lot earlier, right? It will become a lot more obvious where all of the teams can actually go for groups. Yeah, they haven't released anything about what they're actually changing up in terms of form. But yeah, I hadn't actually considered that problem either. Why do you want the Chinese team to like knock each other out before you can play?
That would be very
There you go, perfect. I see where you're coming from there. Oh yeah, I don't really like. I never really viewed MSI as inherently higher quality just because it's all first seeds. Yeah, like last year was kind of an odyssey where the finals were 2 number 1 seeds facing off against each other. Generally speaking, I do actually think the quality of the tournament is expanded by allowing like the 2 free seeds in, and generally we have seen a 2 free seed be the eventual victor. There's SKT and FPX are literally the exceptions. So yeah, like IG were not the number 1 seed. They weren't even close to number 1 seed. RNG were going all the way for everything. They're going for the same golden one that you went for last year, right? Actually, yeah, you were the team that stopped them.
Actually, a pretty good thing is there is no this like the golden road anymore because there is no MSI, so we can just win the world without winning MSI. There's gonna win all the events, you know.
Well, the other thing that you haven't considered, Perkz, is that no matter what, people are gonna say G2 were the MSI champions 2019 to 2020. That will never be taken from you, you know. That's so you are technically the MSI champions 2 years in a row, no matter what anyone says. That's how it will be written. It's all good.
Yeah.
Perfect. The only problem is, though, Perkz, even though I do sort of get where Grabs was coming from on the angle of, like, you know, we were going to kind of, like, take it a bit easier in the spring and then we were going to ramp up as the playoffs come, etc. Like, even almost, like, the arrogance to think that you can do that is kind of mental, mate. Like, you can't, in, like, any sport I'm aware of, just be like, you know what, I don't want to be the best that ever played in spring. I want to be the best that ever played in fall, actually. So, I mean, I've just done an American thing, like autumn. Like, you can't really just, everyone else can't just choose when they're the best, Perkz. What you do is you just try really hard, and if you get really good now, that's the best you can do. Like, no one's as yet in League of Legends at least figured out how to actually pace yourself. So it's a cool idea, and I certainly want to see if you can pull it off. But no one's done it ever in history so far.
That's for sure interesting take, but because I mean, yeah, I don't really know how. I mean, I know how we do it in a way where we do it as a team. Where let's say most of the split we played a lot of Magic and we watched a lot of like movies together.
Sure.
So it was like team bonding, you know, but like Magic was pretty fun. It was like a new thing for me. So we were playing a lot of Magic, and like when we lost, we stopped playing Magic, you know, for a bit, and we just started doing the VOD review. But for me personally, I feel like I just give my best every single game I play. Like some regular season games, I'm like maybe off right, but
sure.
It's like everyone can play best every game. But even some playoffs games, I'm also off right.
Yeah, of course.
This year, last year, like every year, you know, like you just can't play best every game. But I just do prepare for every week, so that's like kind of like similarly. But then for playoffs, there's just something in your brain that knows, okay, this actually matters a lot.
Of course.
And it's also, let's say, I think it's different in sports, just because the fact that the league changes so much. You can't get the best take on the meta when the patch is changing a lot. But when there's playoffs and you play on the same patch for 1 month, you exactly know what you want to play. But if a patch is different every week, and it just feels completely random, and you're preparing for best of ones instead of best of fives. Like, it's just a different mindset and different environment you prepare for. That's why I think regular season is whatever, and it means like it's not whatever, but it's for sure good to be higher seed. But it's like so much different environment than best of five, and that's probably where the take comes from. Grab saying that we ramp up for playoffs or ramp up for important stuff.
Sure.
Which is just, I think, more of like our preparation coming in. We know what we want to do better, and we also know how to approach it better than just like preparing for a random best of one and like a regular season or MSI group stage. You know, like there's too many opponents to prepare for and do little games.
I mean,
plus, now that you play Magic the Gathering, you understand 15% more of what LS is talking about. So now it makes sense. All you have to do now is watch fucking Dragon Ball Z, and you're about 85% of the way there.
Actually, do you think that you guys did actually benefit from all of the, I guess, mental break Magic the Gathering sessions, or like from taking?
Did it have much of an effect?
Yeah, did it?
I mean, I think so. Yeah, I mean, I think even like if you have like a rough day in scrims, it doesn't actually like matter as much because we are still like friends. Also, like for example, for us, I think it's just a different structure than other teams. I mean, I'm not sure for all teams, but like a lot of teams do have like offices and apartments.
Yeah,
and we have gaming house, right? Still, which I've always liked, but I'm actually starting to like leaning towards trying the office apartment thingy just to like see my own privacy and stuff, you know, and see how it works. So for us, having something like a team, like we don't have like the reset. Like let's say we play scrims. Okay, we go home. Fuck, we entered. It's like the atmosphere. If it's bad, it stays bad because we are in the same house. But it doesn't stay bad because we are like we talk about it and we do something fun together. That we are still friends even if scrims go bad. If that makes sense. But like in some teams before, like G2 teams before, G2 rosters, like if scrims went bad, we would just like not really be like talking to each other for like a few hours, we would just like it was just.
I mean, it festers, doesn't it? People, people keep thinking about the feeling or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
that's why doing a different activity works. Like, it's actually a concept if people are aware of this term called state break. Well, what you do is if someone remains in the same mental state, then even if you shift to a different topic, like they'll carry over a lot of the characteristics of that state. So the idea of the state break, it's like if there's ever anything awkward and someone makes a joke that brings everyone out of it. In that moment, everyone shifts the frame of where they are, and you can just start on a different topic now. You don't have to remain depressed or annoyed or frustrated or whatever. You can have some fun and then you're out of it, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
I actually wondered then if like an office setup would prevent you, I wouldn't necessarily having to confront like each other's flaws or something, but you guys do get to kind of heal a bad atmosphere right now because you are kind of stuck together, so you have to find something else to do. You don't necessarily have to, but that's how you've dealt with it, right? But whereas
it feels like it's surely personnel based, right? Because, for example, if you hear the stories of that Fnatic team last year, it sounds like that's a team that should have had a fucking office setup. Like if those guys are in the same room, it's like a steel cage death match. That sounds terrible. Whereas some teams who are more friendly, maybe they love to do shit.
That would be my question. Like, do they need an office setup, or do they need a different approach to these kinds of issues? Because
someone who helps address these problems. Yeah,
it's very easy to kind of isolate yourself from the rest of your team. And it's very easy to want to be isolated from the rest of your team by instinct whenever you guys have a bad day, if you have like an office setup. And I've normally approved of office setup straight up, but like the kind of environment that you're describing right now and how you deal with having a bad environment, those options literally aren't open to you if you have the ability to just fuck off back home and isolate yourself for a while, right? Though theoretically, you can still just fuck off to your room and slam the door shut and refuse to talk.
Yeah, the problem with that is...
If you really want to, but it's obvious if you do that.
Maybe the office setting would be too sterile for Fnatic. What they needed to do was make it a real home, Veteran. And actually, Reckless and Youngbuck had to just stay together for the kids, even though obviously their marriage is absolutely terrible and they should definitely break up for each other's personal happiness. Just stay together for the kids... And then, make it a home and forget about everything that's going wrong and never tell your wife that she looks fat. I mean, that you have no champion pool. Never do that because that's a classic mistake. It'll all go bad after that.
I felt like you may have described what did happen in Fnatic by that.
That was kind of the joke. That's kind of the joke of what I was trying to do there with a bit of wink and a nudge, Just saying.
I mean, is that something that was introduced by coaching staff or something that you think happened naturally? Because you've actually been with Youngbuck as well, right? You've been with Youngbuck and you've been with Perkz. So you can kind of say how much of an impact coach has in a way that other people haven't, because quite clearly there's like a different atmosphere going on here, right?
Wait, in Fnatic, you mean?
No, in your team.
In your, because
how did you come to these conclusions to try these things? Was it coming from players? Was it a management concept that they came up with? Where did it come from?
No, it's just us, like as people. Like basically, it's just like, like Rasmus and Miki, they're like in a way a bit more like, I guess, like they bring out like the more childish side out of me, and like the like me specifically, and like the Wunder like brings out the more like mature side in a way, and then like Jankos just brings out like.
He's just a troll.
He's just a crazy motherfucker, Like, there's nothing else to say about Jankos.
He just reminds me of that video where that guy's doing that interview with the BBC and he's at home. This is before the social distancing. That little kid just walks in the room behind, because the way the kid walks in the room is the most baller way ever. Like, their arms are just all up in the air. That's it Jankos playing every game ever, mate. He's just in the server, that's it.
I was the distinction that Wonder is the mature one, because while you guys are playing Magic the Gathering, he's going off and playing World of Warcraft, right? So that's maturity in the G2 house.
No, I think like Wonder is mature in a way where he is actually pretty professional in scrims, and he's like he's just like he doesn't actually like give, how do I say, he doesn't give a fuck about like what you do or what, like he's like, he has his own privacy in the house, like he's like, he does his own thing, he orders his own food, he cleans his own food, he does his own, he plays WoW, he watches a movie, sometimes he joins us for team activities and stuff. Basically, it's like he's in our own apartment, but he's like in the gaming house, like that kind of thing,
Sure.
This is the standard for pro gamers. Everyone watching, by the way, like they think he's like next level mature because he cooks his own food, like puts his clothes in the fucking laundry basket. He's like the equivalent of that like degenerate kid who's 20, but because he has a car, everyone in high school thinks he's really cool.
Exactly,
he just has a car, like.
I like that.
It makes sense now. There we go.
Pretty much, yeah.
Was there any element, by the way, over the split where, was how Wonder played? Because as we have mentioned before, you could criticize him. Was the way he played anything to do with bringing Caps into the team? Like, it seemed like you played less to top during the first part of the split. It felt like you were trying to figure out the bot lane situation. Has that affected other people's roles in the team?
I mean, for sure a bit. When I used to play mid with Wonder before in Season 8, it was a lot about me, making sure he's good at the game, and he was always very good in the game. I felt like in Season 8, he was except when he played against Shy, of course.
Except for that, of course, yeah. Put that one out of your mind, everyone, except for that, yeah.
But basically, I was a lot about hovering top, roaming top, warding for him and stuff like that, I feel like. And when I banned back to mid, I could see that my habits were really installed there, where I was hovering a lot for top early on. And I was thinking about bot as well, but I was for sure playing more towards top and then towards bot, and then Caps showed me and Jankos the hard way.
There you go. There you go.
And then basically we changed, we changed it up a bit. So Wunder changed with that, he started playing more supported champs, more tanks and stuff like that. So I think Wunder basically just plays whatever he needs to play for his team. That's what I respect about him. He's pretty talented, and for sure there's times that he ins, and there's times that everyone ins, and there's times where we play against Alfari and Alfari is just popping off on Renekton. But I love playing with Wunder. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, then, let me ask you this question, right? I just did an episode. I think it was towards the end of last week where we did on the Crackdown, and we had Alfari as the guest. And when we did this episode, like everyone does on every team, obviously no one's going to generally throw their teammates under the bus. If you lose the game, you just go with the same old script of where we lose as a team and we win as a team, and we all did our best, and not what one person didn't make every single mistake in the game. Therefore, somehow I'm going to now imply that we all made equal mistakes, and so maybe we're all just good or bad at the game, and I don't know, maybe I'm just as good as Dest. He was doing the usual thing that they all do, right? So I just straight up just basically told him to his face, mate, you're way better than everyone in your team, including NateDOhDoubleG. You should probably be on a better team. In fact, you should already be a champion, so don't blame yourself. Just see if you can leave this team. But I did it, with slightly more tact than that. Keyword slightly. There wasn't that much more. I basically did just say that to his face. But I want to know your take on this, because again, listen, it's all well and good. We can all make cases as to why NateDOhDoubleG's a very good player, and obviously, in this case, Hylissang and Selfmade are very good players. But don't you think Alfari's better than his team? He deserves a better team, surely. Come on.
I think he is. Yeah, it is true. I think beforehand, in previous splits in years, I felt like Alfari will be kind of this is kind of mean, but I think he will be kind of a playoff choker. Not in a favor he was choking playoffs. I just feel he would not have as much impact. I remember even in Season 7 when he played, and Dan was just playing tanks in the top lane, and Alfari was playing his Renekton, and my top lane was just so much more useful. Even if he would go 20 CS down lane, it didn't actually matter. But I feel this split, I think he just played a lot of different champs, and he was just very useful in everything he played, basically. I don't really remember last year. Even last year was pretty good as well. That was just I feel this split probably was he was always very good, but I just feel this split was probably his best in a way where I think he just showed up every game he played. I don't actually watch every game of his, but I think. There's just some scrims where I would be going top lane and he would just be getting auto space by me in the lane. It was pretty sad, but compared to all the top laners, he was doing a pretty good job. So he's probably better than the rest of his team. Yeah.
I think he's phenomenal. I only had 2 people S+. One was you and one was him. But does this mean, so say that I just killed Wonder randomly, and you need a new top laner? Would Alfari be the top laner then?
Yeah, I mean, I would then phone Alfari, yeah.
Okay, so now I've killed everyone on your team, all right?
Yeah.
And you can play mid or AD. So what team do you build now?
If I can play mid or AD?
Yeah, you can make the
You killed
choice.
everyone.
Yeah, I killed everyone.
And obviously the joke that I need to add at this point in time, Perkz, is that since this is only a hypothetical world and not the real world we live in, you could choose anyone you wanted in Europe and they'd just come and play in your team.
Yeah.
Crazy fucking concept, I know, but, just in this hypothetical world, that'd happen.
They were like,
Exactly.
They watch the podcast.
Exactly, yeah.
Ooh, when Mickey and Cops retire, maybe.
There you go. See, there you go, right? So what would the fantasy team be? Like, obviously, we get normal from G2 here.
No one for you to hear. Let's see.
Like, which role would you play first? Would you rather play mid or ADC, do you think?
I would rather, I mean, if there is no Cops, I would rather play mid.
Okay.
Then it would be just like 2-3.
There
But
you go.
let's see. So then it would be like Alfari, Selfmade, me, Reckless, and Hylissang. And there is no
Fucking
G2 players in all the teams, right? Oof, that team will be like that team will
Yeah,
be
no,
really fucking scary.
I killed them all.
They're really fun. That team will be really scary. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a bad night. Yeah, they're all gone. Yeah. So I actually really like that.
And here's the thing, Veteran, that actually literally falls in line with a discussion I had with Perkz last year when I did Listen Local on an episode where he was playing really good defense for Reckless and explaining how he thinks Reckless is good and all that. And so what I got him to sort of agree was like, yeah, but you wouldn't want Reckless as like the primary carry of a team. He's best, when he's sort of like the third carry, just AD carry, who just waits till late in the game and wins the team fights. And he was like, yeah, in that sense, I guess he is. So I noticed how he built this team. Like, he's got the straight fire solo laners. He's got the super proactive jungler and support. And at that point in time, Reckless is welcome to fill the fifth seat. And we'll see if he has to do anything at 23 minutes in the game.
It was like a really easy build, no? There is like
Yeah, of course.
There's like no really other viable.
Well, it's already an existing bot lane as well, let's be real. So we already know it works.
There's just nothing else. There's just not. I mean, you can make like some cases for like Upset, Karzi, or like for Kaiser as support, but it's like if you look at historically, there's like literally like only players you could pick.
Sure.
I mean, even like this split, it's just like basically picking the best performers
Sure.
of the split.
Well,
Building a team.
that's the thing. I agree. Reckless Hylissang would be the best performers as a bot lane, right? But do you think Hylissang's been like the best performer as a support, or have you got him here because you just valued the synergy as of Reckless, or you value the experience?
I mean, it's just like even though he's like been like running account this playoff, it's like he's still the support. Like Mickey and him are like the best supports for the last 2 years, and it's always like where I feel like Mickey is like just better because he plays more champs and like higher, let's say like more consistent level.
Yeah.
But I think like Hylissang can sometimes be like for example, last year I'm sorry to throw Mickey under the bus, but last year finals like it was really
Of course.
Yeah, no.
He was hitting a lot of them.
It was really hard to lane against Hylissang those finals because he was putting a lot of pressure with those like engaged supports. And it was like it looks like we are inting or we are losing bot as a duo, but it's like playing against that Hylissang in those two series, it was really fucking hard. And I don't know if it was like really fucking good or we were like boosted, but we didn't have any troubles against any other bot lane the whole year. Not even that before that, never had trouble. And those series was like really hard for me. So that's why I'm always have like high opinion of Hylissang, just because of I know how it's like to lane. Like I didn't care laning against Uzi and Ming Screams. I didn't like mind laning against like other players. I mean Uzi and Ming were really good. Like them is just like but let's say Teddy or some other botnets, right? Let's say those botnets I didn't mind playing against, but Hylissang was just hard to lane against. So yeah, that's basically it.
Okay, what about I have to ask you this then. If it's just rookies, who would you pick?
Rookies. So can you give me options of rookies?
Okay, so top lane actually this year is only Aroma, isn't it? But bot lane, for example, would be Kaiser, Denick, AD carry would be Karzi, I have to get up like the whole list of everyone.
I mean, it's really easy. I would just pick the Mad bot lane. I think they were pretty good for rookie bot lane.
And would you pick Shadow then? Probably.
Yeah, I would just pick Shadow. Yeah.
Yeah, you would just pick Shadow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically just him on Mad Lions.
Yeah, it's basically him on Mad Lions.
But that's because they had all the best rookies. Yeah,
At this point. Okay,
True, yeah.
fair enough. If I expanded that to include Finn and Dandam, would you still go over Roma?
You gave me some really hard options.
Yeah.
By the way, Veteran, here's a statement that'll show you the levels that we're dealing with here. If actually you did make that team with Perkz instead of Humanoid on Mad Lions, dude, Mad Lions might have won this split. Like, they would have had their fucking chances. Meanwhile, on Fnatic's side, like, they're supposed to have all the players already. Like,
Sure.
you can, this is the thing people also don't get, like, just to bring it back again to the original discussion. What people don't get about these players that just are overrated is these players have the teammates people I like would fucking dream of having in their career at this point in time. Like, go find me a bit, like, everyone who's been ragging on Febiven for the last 2 years. Give this motherfucker players like Nemesis has now. Put Febiven on Fnatic now. You think they wouldn't be an unbelievable team? Of course they would. Like,
actually,
these people dream of teammates like these guys have. You cannot get better teammates.
Actually, that's one thing. That's one thing that I have to say to you, Thorin, is that you made that tweet about how Febiven was the previous like worst mid to play. I actually think relative to like all the other mid laners at the time, because like obviously if you took like anyone from the year before, they'd probably use to lose to someone who's playing like the year now, right? But if you took it to like relative performance, I actually think mid lane was like closest when Xpeke was winning in season 3. I actually think there were people who were genuinely better.
Oh, of course. Like, you have to realise at that point in time,
yeah,
it was just such a powerful role. Yeah, you could really go 3 or 4 positions deep then. It was legit. Like, it just depends on who your teammates are.
Whereas it's like Febiven versus Power of Evil. Yeah, I think Febiven is comfortably the better mid laner, and I think I do agree with your sentiment that it would be really weird if Nemesis won it, looking at all the mid laners that won it beforehand, but Febiven wouldn't be the name there. Like, I think Febiven's just always been insane since.
No, the whole point of that is it highlights how insanely hard it is to win Europe. The great thing is, because Perkz won anyway, the whole narrative continues. You have to actually be really good. Yeah, sorry, Nemesis, you can't just be pretty good at mid lane. You have to be the best, mate. So come back when you're the best, or, you know, try and get even better teammates. Maybe you can get fucking lucky as your fucking ADC or something. Maybe you can do some shit. And then when you win a split, we can talk. Reminder that this guy actually thought Doinby was the worst mid laner at Worlds. Fucking hell.
No, I think what he said was...
No, I'm Veteran, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not allowing people to do like a fucking quick shot where what you do is 3 years later, you say what I actually said was, and someone can pull up the video, it's not what you said at all. And you just go, but what I meant to say, it's like, that's irrelevant.
How the fuck did it get to this point where I am the one defending Nemesis, by the way? That's like how hard you've swung, Thorin, on this, is that I'm the one that's coming in and be like, you know what? It wasn't that bad when it comes to Nemesis.
That is literally a quote of what he said. I can show you the video. He said he's the worst mid in the tournament. Now I know what he meant. Yes, obviously he meant like laning and all that factors, of course.
No, he meant who was still in the tournament, right? Of the mids who were still in the tournament, I actually think he was right. Because he was talking in quarters. I actually think he was right there, though.
Except he wasn't, was he?
Is really high. But it's just because
Like, who was a better mid laner at that point in time? By the way, we're talking again. This is why it's irrelevant. It's no point. I'm never going to have any discussions with religious fanatics. Like, unless you can agree upon definitions of words, there's no point in having the words. So if we're going to talk about best mid, we actually just mean player at League of Legends. We don't just mean strictly what a mid laner is. We mean the best of the 4 players, right?
I mean,
who had more impact?
It was quarterfinals, so it was
okay. So at that point,
sure, make an argument for Cups being the best mid at the time.
Oh, of course. At that point in the tournament, if there's 8 teams left, who has more impact on the game? Humanoid, Faker. Doinby's way ahead of all these motherfuckers. He's like the main person on his team.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Yes, I mean you're technically right, but you could just say Cups, Rookie, and Doinby were the top 3.
That's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair. Rookie was a monster.
Yeah.
That's pretty fair.
Doinby should have been punished at that tournament, but then you guys pick Pyke. Like, if you guys pick Mage, you do punish him with that, because the reason this guy had so much impact at that tournament was he always ended up either in a matchup where he could freely roam, or he ended up in a matchup where he can't freely roam, and the opposing mid laner just refused to abuse that. They just refuse to do what Perkz does if you let him run away with pressure, which is what Perkz does versus Nemesis. Nemesis probably hated Doinby so much because he was looking in the fucking mirror in a way here, but if Doinby doesn't get that off, he's not even good at getting that off in an economically viable way. He's not actually good in the laning phase itself. He generally gets some matchup, or because Tian was insane,
Oh, he obviously had the best weapons.
And then he roamed like ad nauseum, and it was really good. But if you guys picked a mage, he doesn't do that. Like I agree there. Like I can't believe I'm defending Nemesis so hard. By the way, after all these episodes,
wasn't it implied, Perkz, that FPX beat you guys loads in scrims when you played them at Worlds?
They did, yeah. They beat us shit on. And
what about that then? Because listen, I get the world that a Nemesis is coming from. If you're just looking individually and you're just thinking like solo queue and mids, like you can have your own criteria. But it must be weird, right? If you're playing scrims and you have Caps as your mid laner and fucking Doinby's wrecking you in scrims, like that must be a weird scenario. How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, it's also like Doinby is just like the way he played the game. It was just different to other mids because he was just such a like hard forcer. Like it's a hard force to play against, where he will do something and the early game will be rough. But so like basically, I think if you play the mage, like I mean, like you guys didn't play against those players, Like,
of course, that's why I'm asking.
Like playing against Tian and Crisp and Doinby, like mid jungle, like playing mid against those champs and players, it's like you will for sure like die like once or twice. I mean, like let's say
I agree with you,
But I think that Caps will play a mage, he would die once or twice on lane, and we will still win a game. That's what I think, right? But I do think that Doinby was like looking at what he gave to his team and the style, like what he did for his team, he was like for sure the best mid of the tournament. Like there's just no no argument that he was not just because of what he did. Like the amount of mid prio this guy had, he was just really fucking insane. But I do think Caps is a better player than him. Like I don't know how to.
Of course.
Like basically, for like if you just look at Caps mechanics and the way he played,
yes,
you could see that. I mean, I thought Caps was better than Rookie and Faker. Like I mean, I'm not even saying.
I think it's fair.
I thought he was for sure better than them, And the only thing that was like, Doinby game knowledge and understanding of mid jungle support. Like you can say, his jungle support better. No, but like Doinby, like you see this guy POV, this guy pings, this guy types, this guy pings where he wants to go. Like this guy is a fucking like he's a
they've got people have got that the wrong way around.
Like I can't do that. Like, I can't time and do laning phase.
True.
The way he plays laning phase, considering like what he does for his team, I would not be able to play it as good as he does. And he would probably not be able to play as good laning phase as I do in a Season versus matchup, like no matter how much he practices, because that's not how he plays. But I can't. I mean, maybe I could learn to get the good at that, but that would take like so much time. So basically, just what Doinby does is very unique, and the way his team utilizes it is very unique. That's why I think it feels like it's a hard team to deal against.
By the way, that whole angle of like, but he has Tian and Crisp. It's like, mate, this is like if fucking when Dandy and Matter revolutionized the game, they just told him to do it all. Like the whole point is that he's making them really good.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay, I get where you're coming from. I agree with everything that you just said. What you just gave for me is a really strong argument for MVP rather than a strong argument for like best mid of the tournament. And what Nemesis was talking about was mid. And I'm not doing that as a technicality. I'm doing that for the same reason why I gave Hylissang, I don't know if you know this, but I gave Hylissang my MVP for last year's summer, but I thought Mickey X was the best support. And I always try to make that sort of distinction about how much they do for the team versus how good they are at the role itself. Right, and for me, Doinby absolutely could give him MVP, and I wouldn't make an argument against it. I agree with everything you just said there, but for me, that argument is a really good argument for why he's like the MVP of the tournament, as opposed to why he's like a better mid laner than all the other mid laners there. Maybe you'd prefer to have him on your team for that reason, but I still understand where Nemesis is coming from. If you just name all of the mid laners there, I think that for the same reason why you think Caps is better than like Faker, Rookie, etc., I think you can make a similar argument for why Doinby would be bottom two on the.
Well, here's the irony, of course, Veteran, is that now Nemesis has Self-Mid and Hylissang, two of the absolute best players at support and jungle in his region, and he's doing fucking nothing with it.
I mean,
There you go.
the bottom two Nemesis would have been one of them, right? Like Nemesis is competing with Doinby at the bottom of the people who made it to quarterfinals, right? Like, I agree with you there. They're both still really good players. It's just I do think all the other mid laners were better mid laners. Though, yes, every time you watch Doinby's Pro View or Doinby in solo queue and he's just fucking timing sums in the middle of team fights while doing 50 billion other things and then just micromanaging his team like he's playing StarCraft, yeah, that's fucking impressive. And he's definitely an MVP candidate.
Here's what I don't get though, Veteran, is like, surely by the same logic he is also, like, here's the problem. This is where definitions are really key to having any of these discussions. Yeah. If we're talking about as an individual player, people are going to start using logic like, what if you take away their teammates? What if they played in random team X? You know, how would they all do in a control group, playing in the same team, etc.? So by that logic, I can't argue against it. But I would just say this, like, to me, this is actually where I think everyone else is actually stuck behind. You know what everyone always says to me? Because they think, oh, you are a fan of Froggen, so you must think all that matters in the game is lane, which doesn't collect, by the way, at all. Because what you've done there is take the assumption that I am a fan of him, therefore I think he is the best. That's one step I never make. You'll notice you'll never find me on video ever saying that. So the point I'm making is this. As mad as it sounds that I have to say this to other people, but you know what, boys? Lane isn't everything in the game. Even team fights aren't everything in the game. They are all just part of the game, and it definitely depends on the personnel of your team. So here's the difference, is I actually think you could argue at that, only at that Worlds though, I won't argue for any other tournament in history, that Doinby was a better player than most of the names you've just listed, because what he did had way more impact in the game than even just being the best pure mid laner. Like, Rookie actually had some problems in the summer before Worlds, so I won't put him at his peak there, but Rookie as just an individual player, if we drop Rookie into any team at Worlds and he can communicate in their language, in theory he could play mid the best, or maybe Caps would if Perkz wants to use that angle, right? Those two players, put them in any team, they should just be the best at just basic laning, champion pool, trading, team fight, all the classic things you want. But the difference is at that particular tournament, even those guys couldn't have the impact on the game that Doinby actually did. And I get that it's really complicated because he kind of like, it's like the Hylissang argument in Fnatic actually. Basically, he himself wouldn't be able to do that if he didn't also have the teammates that he had to allow him to activate them, if you know what I mean. So it's very complex as an argument, but put it this way, there's a big difference between having great stats and winning the game, isn't there? And I would say that's the distinction. Like, Doinby knows how to win the game, mate. It's actually amazing. I don't know how he does it.
I mean, that's like,
I won't even pretend I know what he's doing. Half the shit I just, like, I'm doing what everyone else does. You just wait until he wins the game and go, wow, genius, how he did that. But 1 second after the draft, everyone would have said the guy's an idiot.
As someone once described Doinby to me as what would happen if you took someone that you'd think would be like the perfect strategic coach and you just made them grind like 2,000 hours at the game or something, and then you'd end up with Doinby. It's also why so many like coaches and lists.
You notice they love it,
because
of course.
Yeah, because they think maybe that could be them if they just grinded a shit ton of games or something. You know.
Basically, he's the dream of every fucking coach in League of Legends, which is that they actually did have the fucking super challenger mechanics with their brain, and that they could just play it in the game. Not like all these dumbass players I'm telling how to play. It's like they think that's what would happen if they played. In reality, though, they'd be more like fucking Wadid or something like that. You know, they'd be able to do one thing, and if that worked, great. Otherwise, they'd be shit out of luck, wouldn't they?
True.
This video was kindly supported by Alexander Rao, Dean Tanglis, JDubs, NateDOhDoubleG, Tobias Bernasconi, and as always, a special thanks goes out to my boy Jerky's Minion. Would you like to suggest a topic or a guest for my content? Maybe you want to ask me a question for my monthly video AMA. Do you want teasers? Who are the guests on the upcoming talk shows, interviews I have? Maybe you want to take part in one of those Patreon donator discussions with me. Well, for any of the above perks and more, put your money where your mouth is and join the Scrilluminati today at the Patreon link in the description box below.